Chapter 1176. A Mystery. The instant the clone in Su Xianyi's field of vision turned into ashes in the Emperor of Abyss True World, and the sandglass showed that there were only about 2 hours until the day ended, the sixth heavenly incense shuddered violently. Su Ming's pupils shrank when he saw the sixth heavenly incense shatter with a bang. As it crumbled layer by layer, it was reduced to ashes and disappeared. At the same time, a faint presence spread out, and they caused his expression to change before it eventually settled on a dreary look. He could tell that the presence belonged to him. The second, the spirit of the rune, who had now lost 2 of its heavenly incenses, said in an ancient voice. As it reverberated in space, it caused Su Ming's expression to turn even more dreary. So it's not only me attacking you personally, but all the things done by those who are connected to me, be it people or objects possessing my presence, that will be counted within this day. Su Ming's eyes swiftly fell shut. In an instant, he found his Yikang clone. He had noticed that the presence that destroyed the heavenly incense just then belonged to him, but he also realized that it came from the seed of life extermination, which had already been separated from his body. Though Su Ming might not know what happened to the seed of life extermination and what had caused the heavenly incense crumble, but it was obvious that this was due to another independent clone. Yet Su Ming had no time to care about why and how it had happened. At the instant his divine sense connected with Yikang clone, his pupils constricted. Su Ming sensed that his Yikang clone had brought tens of thousands of cultivators to surround a broken planet. With killing intent emanating from him, he brought his right hand up, intending to destroy the planet. It did not matter whether there was someone in the planet who could affect the heavenly incense rune, but once Su Ming fused his divine sense with his Yikang clone, he immediately made his decision. Yikang clone slowly brought his hand down. The murderous glare and the blood-red light in his eyes gradually disappeared as well. Instead of attacking, he sat down and waited for the final 2 hours of the day to come to an end. As for Su Ming, he carefully thought back on all the people and objects who had his presence. In the end, he was certain that no other accidents would happen. Then, with a sullen expression, he stared at the heavenly incense rune. Only the time it takes for an incense stick to burn remained until the day was over. I'd like to see how the third heavenly incense will break. There was an aloof look in Su Ming's eyes. By his side, both Hu Zi and the bald crane were silent. They had discovered that something was off. They knew that Su Ming had descended into a monomaniacal state, and they did not dare bother him. Time trickled by breath by breath. When the time it takes for an incense stick to burn was about to pass and there were less than 10 grains of sand remaining in the upper level of the sandglass, the heavenly incense rune spirit did not react. It still believed wholeheartedly that what it had predicted would come true. At the instant the final grain fell, signaling that the day was over, the image of the last of the 7 heavenly incenses inverted in Su Ming's eyes, which was also clearly the very first heavenly incense extinguished a long time ago. With a bang, it shuddered, and countless cracks went down its side. The instant the day ended, it collapsed and shattered. The spirit of the heavenly incense rune did not react. In fact, it was very calm, since it was not the spirit itself destroying the incense stick. Su Ming could sense this clearly. His face gradually turned pale, and his body shuddered, because he noticed the presence that came from the incense stick the instant it was destroyed. That presence belonged to Su Ming. What caused him to tremble and go pale was the fact while that presence belonged to him, he was completely unfamiliar with it. This was a very contradictory statement, but at that moment, it was what Su Ming felt in his heart. "'Tis the secret of the universe. Through thy hand, it has descended upon me. 3 incense sticks hath broken. 'Tis mine punishment for revealing the secret of the universe. What the secret of the universe hast revealed wilt come true. It wilt happen," the spirit of heavenly incense rune muttered. Its ancient voice echoed in space. Secret of the universe. Su Ming slowly stood up with a ferocious look in his eyes. With a single move, he charged at the heavenly incense rune. When he raised his right hand, the ring flew off his finger with a bang. At the same time, an astonishing power erupted from his body. This was not the power that belonged to ordinary almighties in Fate Realm. It was great enough for him to fight against those in Life Realm within Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. In fact, even if he was faced with those in Death Realm, Su Ming would still be worthy enough to fight against them. The secret of the universe might have said that you will have 3 of your incense sticks broken, but I will break all of them. While speaking, Su Ming approached the rune. As his cultivation base erupted from him, a piercing light spread out from the ring. An astonishing presence erupted from the supreme treasure. It was a power that could destroy space. With a bang, it charged at the heavenly incense rune. Wherefore doth thou do this? Yesterday is over. The spirit of the heavenly incense rune sighed softly. It did not fight back and allowed that vast power of the ring to descend upon it. Amid the loud bangs, the remaining 6 heavenly incenses shuddered simultaneously. One of them shattered swiftly, disappearing into space. Killing intent shone in Su Ming's eyes. He lifted his right hand and formed a seal. The ring immediately howled, and with a vast power, it charged at the heavenly incense rune once more. The rune crumbled. The 5th heavenly incense rune shattered, meaning there were only 4 incenses left. 2 of them continued burning, and the power of reversing time surrounded the 3 incense sticks which had extinguished, as if they were about to recover. Su Ming struck the center of his brows with his left hand. Immediately, the past and future appeared next to him, and the power of reversing time spread out from his body. As he let out a low growl, he controlled the supreme treasure with his right hand. The ring swept out, drawing an arc that rushed once again at the heavenly incense rune. This time, Su Ming's inborn power to interrupt the flow of time was contained in the ring. As booming sounds reverberated in space, it charged at the heavenly incense rune. Rumbles surged into space without end. Besides the 2 heavenly incenses which continued to burn, the other 3 were reduced to powder, but as Su Ming watched it, a complicated expression appeared on his faces. He saw that the 4 heavenly incenses he destroyed disregarded his power to interrupt the flow of time. They still slowly but surely recovered and manifested, as if their reformation was not as Su Ming saw. It was not due to the reversal of time, but was a power that surpassed what he could currently understand. With it, they recovered after they had shattered. 'Tis useless. I revealed the secret of the universe and has thus paid the price. I doth not know when ye shalt pay thine, but what the secret of the universe has shown wilt be fulfilled. This wilt never change. There is nothing thou can changeth, even if you destroy the remaining heavenly incenses. Today is today, yesterday has passed. The heavenly incense rune sighed softly. Slowly, its will dissipated. The 4 heavenly incenses Su Ming had destroyed manifested once more, but since the will of the spirit of the rune had disappeared, they became no different from lifeless objects. I have revealeth the secret of the universe. Having 3 of mine heavenly incenses broken is just an external punishment. Mine internal punishment is that of mine will falling into slumber for 3,720 years. When I awaken, I shalt see the scene thou hast seen from the secret of the universe. At that time, we shalt meet again. As the voice of the heavenly incense rune spirit became increasingly weaker, the 2 burning incense slowly went out. They had not extinguished because of an abyss builder's clone, but because the runes had fallen asleep. They would not burn for 3,720 years. After that time passed, the 2 heavenly incenses would light up once more. Su Ming stared at the extinguished heavenly incenses. As he watched the 6 incense sticks and sensed the strange power from the heavenly incense rune around him fade away until it was completely gone, he fell silent. Anguish appeared on his face. In truth, before he attacked, Su Ming had already known that he had lost against the heavenly incense rune. Even if he destroyed the other heavenly incenses, the previous day had already passed, and the secret of the universe had said that 3 sticks would be broken on that particular day. If I had broken 3 or more beforehand. Su Ming stood quietly in the galaxy and watched the extinguished heavenly incense rune. He could not help but think of that question. After a long while, he sighed softly. In the end, the mysteriousness of the secrets of the universe lay in only 2 words. What if? The secret of the universe was contained in those 2 simple words. He would understand this matter if he could, and if he could not, then there was no forcing himself. The pictures he saw from the secret of the universe flashed in his eyes again, but he buried them all deep in his heart. I do not believe in the will of heaven, neither do I believe in destiny. I only believe in myself. So what if this is the secret of the universe? If I change the secret of the universe and replace the heavens themselves, I will also be able to change my destiny. What the secret of the universe showed is just one point in the future. With this point as a reference, I can change the future. Determination and resolution appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He knew that he could not think too much about this. The more he thought about it, the more he would instinctively believe in it, and if he did so, the more likely it would become that it would come true. A brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes as he stared at space. Clone of mine that practices the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole, I will start with you. The heavenly incense has been destroyed, so I'd like to see just where you can hide. With a step forward, Su Ming appeared beside Hu Zi and the bald crane. Hu Zi looked like he wanted to speak, but he hesitated. He cast a glance at Su Ming, and in the end chose to say nothing. Hu Zi, for the time being, I won't return to build the 9th summit. I want to search for the clone of mine who betrayed me and fled. Do you want to come with me or go back? Su Ming looked towards Hu Zi. Naturally, where you go, I will follow. I am your senior brother. Eldest senior brother has already ordered me to help you, so you can't leave me and go alone, Hu Zi said loudly while patting his chest. Su Ming stared at Hu Zi. He could not help but remember the picture from The Secret of the Universe, the one where Hu Zi was covered head to toe in blood while glaring at the universe with eyes open as he lay dead. Pain struck Su Ming's heart, and his resolution to avert what was to come grew even stronger. Chapter 1176.1 All Spirits Hall. A long arc charged through the whirlwind. Su Ming was at the front of it, with Hu Zi was by his side. As for the bald crane, it was lying on Hu Zi's shoulder and continuously trying to confuse him by whispering into his ear. This gradually annoyed Hu Zi. He grabbed the bald crane by the neck and threw it into the distance. Yet in the span of a few breaths, the bald crane returned and lay down on Hu Zi's shoulder once more to continue with its work. Su Ming's expression was calm. The third eye at the center of his eyes had already opened, and it was shining with a strangely enchanting light while staring at the whirlwind in the galaxy. With it, Su Ming could see a silver line stretching into the depths of the whirlwind. This silver thread was a sign left behind by his divine sense when he struck the top of his clone's skull. Through it, he could find his clone that practiced the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole. Days passed, and in the blink of an eye, half a month was gone. Su Ming had been charging forward all that time. He rushed forward in the direction of the silver thread, and the distance between him and the clone grew smaller. His clone, a person who now had his own independent will, had clearly noticed Su Ming's actions, and he was fleeing into the distance, continuously changing his direction in an attempt to shake off the pursuit. But no matter how he tried to flee, he could not run away from Su Ming's senses. On the 19th day of the pursuit, a glint shone in Su Ming's eyes. He took a step forward, disappearing. When he appeared, he was far into the distance, standing above a broken planet. The moment he stopped there, his third eye saw the silver thread going into the broken planet. As the third eye magnified the view, Su Ming saw his clone meditating on a mountain. The instant Su Ming looked at it, the black-robed clone raised his head and stared at the sky coldly, meeting its old master's gaze. Su Ming's lips curled up into a cold sneer. At that moment, Hu Zi and the bald crane arrived behind him, and their gazes fell on the broken planet. Hu Zi, guard this place. My clone is slightly cunning. He must have made preparations against me since he chose this place. If he runs, try to block him, but just a little. Baldy, guard this place as well. Su Ming lifted his finger and pointed in the direction before him. Hu Zi grinned, and with a single move, he appeared at the spot Su Ming had requested of him. The bald crane quickly patted its chest, putting on an expression that told Su Ming not to be worried. A glint shone in Su Ming's eyes, and when he looked at the broken planet, the cold sneer on his lips became even colder. The clone's personality was incredibly similar to his own. Since he chose this place, he had to have prepared an ambush, but Su Ming did not intend to step into the broken planet. Instead, he raised his right hand, and the ring on his right hand sparkled. A ripple spread out from it and surrounded Su Ming's palm. He formed a seal with his hand. Immediately after, countless ripples that formed multiple circles charged towards the broken planet. The moment the ripples touched the planet, it shuddered, and cracks spread through the ground with loud noises. In just 2 breaths, booming sounds reverberated in space, and the planet crumbled. Su Ming took a step forward as swiftly as a bolt of lightning. He stepped on the broken pieces, then lifted his right hand, formed a seal, and pointed forward. With it, space was sliced apart. Su Ming changed the rules in the place by using his power of Fate Realm. This power was gathered on his finger as he charged straight towards the center of the clone's brows while the planet crumbled around him. He was so fast that he closed in on the clone that practiced the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole right away, but the clone looked like he had expected Su Ming to do such a thing. Not a hint of panic could be detected on him. The instant Su Ming closed in, he raised his right hand, clenched his fist, and let out a low growl. His body instantly started squirming, and he threw a punch at Su Ming. When it collided with Su Ming's finger, a deafening bang echoed in the air, shaking the sky as well as the earth. A huge wave of power swept towards Su Ming from the clone, causing him to freeze for a moment, but it was only for a moment. No matter how strong the clone was, he was still just a clone, and the time in which he had an independent will was too short. Su Ming let out a snort, and his cultivation base surged to his finger. Once he formed a seal with his right hand, he flung that power forward, and immediately, the clone coughed up a large mouthful of blood. He staggered backwards, retreating several thousands of feet backwards in one go. Su Ming's pupils contracted. The clone being forced back was within his expectations, but if it was forced back several thousands of feet back, then there was a problem with it. Almost at the instant Su Ming noticed this, the clone's lips curled into a ferocious sneer. There was even a hint of derision in it. He raised his hands, pushed his palms together in front of him, and a string of words with which Su Ming was familiar tumbled out of his mouth. Form the earthen script. Grave. The clone raised his hands, formed a seal, then pointed forward. Immediately, the shattered planet froze for a moment. In the blink of an eye, they moved in reverse, no longer scattering away. Instead, they fell back. It looked like time was flowing in reverse, but in truth, this was due to the clone's divine ability. In an instant, the shattered planet gathered together once more, forming something that was no longer the planet from before, but a lone grave formed by countless shattered rocks. That grave was like a seal. There were countless bolts of lightning swimming on its surface, and they let out crackling sounds as they sealed Su Ming inside. All of this had happened in a flash. The clone's personality was practically the same as Su Ming's, and he was incredibly cunning. He had predicted that Su Ming would definitely chase after him, and when he saw that he was on the planet, he would definitely guess that there was something off about the place. The probability of him landing on the ground was not high. It was more probable that he would destroy the planet. Yet as long as Su Ming closed in on the place, the clone could execute the earthen script. He made a bet that Su Ming still did not understand him and believed that he was only skilled in physical arts. Almost the instant the seal was formed, the clone threw his head back and roared. His body was immediately covered in blood, and wisps of silver light were forced out of the center of his brows. All of this lasted for about 3 breaths. Hu Zi's expression changed in the distance. He roared in anger and rushed over, but the clone just laughed at the heavens. In the end, he forced out all of the silver threads from the center of his brows. He moved, and in the face of the incoming Hu Zi, the clone laughed ferociously, raised his right hand, and threw a punch at him. Booming sounds reverberated in space. Hu Zi jolted and was forced several thousands of feet backwards. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and when he raised his head, he found that the clone had not chased after him, but had turned into a long arc that left swiftly into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the whirlwind. Only his laughter echoed in space, and there was a wild, untamed quality to it. When my real self no longer has the silver threads to chase after me, I'd like to see how you will follow me. Don't worry, I can tell you where I will go. Even if you destroyed the 3rd heavenly incense and broke my path to copying your power, it doesn't matter. I can go to the other true worlds and search for Su Xianyi. I believe he will be very interested in me. When I am powerful enough, I will devour you and replace you. The clone's laughter gradually faded away, and his body could no longer be seen. With a bang, the gigantic grave formed of shattered stones sealing Su Ming crumbled. He walked out from within it with a sullen expression. He cast a glance at the galaxy in the distance, and a contempt shone in his eyes. He had indeed not expected the clone to have mastered his divine abilities instead of relying on his great physical power. However, the clone did not know that Su Ming had never put all his hopes on a single plan. Besides the silver threads, he still had another method to track the clone. The golden shade of his personality had fused with the clone. Even though the clone had severed the connection with his soul after he gained his own will, the golden personality still remained within it, faded away so it was almost unnoticeable. However, due to the existence of the golden personality which was part of him, the clone was like a torch in a dark world in Su Ming's eyes. He stood out starkly. Hu Zi, go back to eldest senior brother and second senior brother and build our 9th summit with them. This clone of mine is incredibly cunning. Capturing him will require some time. Once I subjugate him, I'll go back and search for all of you. Su Ming turned his head around and cast a glance at Hu Zi. He lifted his right hand and swung his arm before a gentle power immediately surged out from him to seep into Hu Zi's body. Once most of the injuries had recovered, Hu Zi stared at Su Ming, and after a moment of hesitation, he chose to agree. After all, the clone was so strong that no matter how extraordinary Hu Zi's level of cultivation was, there was still a great disparity between them. Not only would he not be of any use to Su Ming, he would even hold him back. Hu Zi, you're the most skilled among us in regards to runes. Please help me crack the rune for relocation to Morning Dao sect. I want to go there and see whether there are any survivors in there, and its land can be used as the bedrock for the 9th summit. And the predecessor of Dao Ocean is also there. Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm towards Hu Zi, then sent a ripple that could reject the whirlwind under his feet. When he turned around, he changed into a long arc. The bald crane quickly followed after Su Ming and disappeared with him. Hu Zi watched Su Ming leave into the distance while standing alone in the galaxy, and a hint of determination appeared on his honest face. Level of cultivation. I must increase my level of cultivation. I absolutely cannot be so much weaker than them. I have to become stronger. Resolution shone in Hu Zi's eyes. When he turned around, he changed into a long arc and left into the distance. Su Ming moved quickly and also shifted. With the supreme treasure sweeping around him, the whirlwind could not affect him in the slightest, allowing Su Ming to move incredibly fast. In an instant, he covered a boundless distance. In just around a dozen breaths, he sensed the clone in his heart. He's moving through the whirlwind. No matter how strong his physical body is, he cannot do it for a long time. With the distance he covered just now, he should be reaching his limit. A freezing glare shone in Su Ming's eyes, and he rushed forward. Chapter 1177, All Spirits Hall. Damn it, how can he still chase after me? A powerful killing intent shone in the clone's eyes. With a sullen expression on his face, he charged through the whirlwind. It blew against his body, and he was already beginning to feel sharp stabs of pain from it. He knew that he could not persevere for much longer. With the power of his physical body, he could last for quite some time, but if it continued for a long period of time, he would end up with the exact same problem as the ancient god. Earlier, he had thought that he had shaken off his pursuer. Once he forced out the silver threads, Su Ming should have lost his tracks. This would then have forced him to give up because he would not be able to find him. However, even after losing the guidance of the silver threads, Su Ming still kept on drawing closer to him. The clone's expression was sullen. He let out a low roar, and after the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, his expression changed drastically. The space in the whirlwind behind him had distorted. A figure walked out from the air before the clone. When it raised its right hand and brought it down, the whirlwind disintegrated with loud bangs. The figure moved forward while stepping on the crumbling whirlwind. Soon, his appearance was revealed. Needless to say, it was Su Ming who had come chasing after the clone. I have indeed underestimated you, clone of mine. Su Ming looked like he knew what the clone was thinking. His tone was flat, and he swiftly raised his right hand, pointing forward. Mountain Shifter. The galaxy roared at his words, and the whirlwind shuddered. Countless mountains manifested in the form of illusions in all directions. When Su Ming attacked, he started with one of his strongest divine abilities. The clone's expression changed. He moved back with a fierce look in his eyes. He too raised his right hand and pointed at space. Mountain Shifter. It was the same divine ability, the same art. Su Ming had used his cultivation base to execute the art, while the clone had used his physical power to activate it. The difference was that Su Ming had thousands of mountains in all directions, while an illusory mountain had appeared over the clone. He had used his own body to form the mountain to resist the upcoming attack. Su Ming's eyes focused. He was no longer surprised that the clone understood the Mountain Shifter art, but he was surprised that this art had changed in such a manner in the clone's hands. This was something he had not expected. Looks like you do not just have your own independent will, but have also obtained some serendipities. When Su Ming said those words coolly, he lowered his right hand. In an instant, countless mountains which contained his full power charged towards the clone. The image of the mountain had completely formed around the clone. Once it turned into a huge mountain, the mountains that came charging towards him from all directions collided with it. Booming sounds instantly surged into the heavens, and all of the mountains shattered inch by inch. The mountain around the clone fell apart, and the clone coughed up blood. The next moment, he raised his right hand and struck his chest. After that, he threw his head back and roared. His body instantly withered. Su Ming's pupils shrank as he watched it. The clone's body slowly changed form. Then, right before Su Ming's eyes, the clone turned into a gigantic, crimson python phoenix. It had a gigantic body that shone with multiple colors. The crimson python phoenix shot through space with a screech, charging into the distance at a speed that surpassed what the clone had possessed previously. When it looked like he was going to escape, Su Ming let out a cold harumph. He lifted his right hand, pressed his fingers together to form a blade, and took a step forward while making a slashing motion with his hand. God Slayer Art. This was an art formed from the principles of the laws of fate. When Su Ming used it before reaching Fate Realm, it had been incredibly powerful. Right then, however, after he had mastered the fate around him, the effects of this art were even more shocking. The first thing he cut was the laws in the area, and this action was followed by the power of absolute accuracy. As booming sounds reverberated in space, the clone that had turned into the crimson python phoenix and had fled into the distance let out a shrill scream of pain. His body cracked, but he did not break down. Instead, he continued to charge forward in desperation. Right after, though, the third part of the God Slayer art, the power of rebound, arrived. The loud bang that shot into space then was even stronger, shattering the crimson python phoenix's body. As he was reduced to a bloody mess, he turned back into the clone. His face was pale, but he still stepped into space and disappeared without a trace. If it was any other cultivator, they would have definitely died under Su Ming's series of attacks, but the clone that practiced the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole possessed a powerful physical body that not even Su Ming had at that moment. The strength of that physical body even allowed him to move through the whirlwind. Naturally, this meant that he would not die that easily. You're this injured, so you should be thinking of going to that place. Su Ming smiled coldly. He had not expected to be able to capture the clone with that attack. After all, he could be said to be the person who understood the clone the most. He knew just how difficult his physical body was to deal with, which was why he had told Hu Zi that he would need some time. In reality, it was not hard for Su Ming to kill the clone. However, what he wanted to do was not to kill him. He wanted to possess him a second time. He thus rushed away, chasing the clone with the tracks he had left behind. The heavier his injuries, the harder it will become for him to move through the whirlwind. When I catch up to him again, I will be able to capture him alive. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. He was so fast that with a single charge, he sliced apart the whirlwind and left into the distance. Damn it! Damn it! I must still have some sort of mark that he can follow. The clone's face was incredibly pale, and he was growing increasingly more sullen. Su Ming's two divine abilities had severely injured him. If it was not because he was being chased down, he would have immediately searched for a place to heal his injuries. Su Ming's God Slayer art had been especially vicious. It had nearly cut the clone's body in half, making his injuries much worse than before. He had already felt stabs of pain when he moved in the whirlwind before and knew that he could not last too long like that. Now, His body had even begun trembling. His injuries weakened his ability to resist the whirlwind, and it shrunk the already limited time he could spend in the whirlwind. Su Ming clearly wanted to use this to force him into a corner. The clone's eyes flashed while he kept charging forward. When he noticed that Su Ming was even closer to him after a shift, a hint of madness arose in the clone's eyes. If that's the case, then don't blame me for disregarding the relationship we shared in the past. The clone suddenly changed direction. He no longer charged forward. Instead, he moved left and disappeared into the distance. Heavenly incense enlightened me. Not only has this allowed me to gain sentience, it also presented me with the memories left behind in the heavenly incense rune by countless cultivators from true Morning Tao world. One of them contained the sun-sinking talisman, one of the 3 mysterious places in true Morning Tao world. That part of the galaxy is constantly dark, and your divine sense won't be able to leave your body when you are there. When a cultivator goes there, it is the same as having all of their 5 senses sealed. In fact, even their power is suppressed. Su Ming, since you want to die so much, I will devour you in the galaxy where the sun-sinking talisman is. And even if I can't devour you, your divine sense and your cultivation base will be suppressed there. I'd like to see how you will continue chasing after me then. Their clone looked positively evil at that moment. He flew swiftly towards the sun-sinking talisman, which was not too far away from him. He could reach it in about 5 days. There will be no end to us unless one of us dies. This isn't a grudge, but a fight for freedom. Only when I kill you will I be able to be completely free. From then on, I will be Su Ming. The clone's expression twisted. As he charged forward, he was worried that Su Ming would catch up to him halfway through, so he struggled for a moment before gritting his teeth. A bang shot up from his body, and his skin turned crimson. Gradually, layers upon layers of his skin fell off, revealing the flesh and bloodstream. At the same time, his blood and flesh went inwards, as if they wanted to seep into his bones. Waves of indescribable pain caused the clone to grit his teeth, and he descended into madness. Pain. Only this extreme pain can stimulate all the potential in my body. He gritted his teeth. In an instant, his speed reached an unlimited pace as he charged straight at sun-sinking talisman. As he rushed forward, his flesh and blood slowly seeped into his bones. This might seem inconceivable, but in truth, it was a forbidden art that could allow his bones to be outside while his flesh and blood were inside. Muscles on white bones art. This is a forbidden art I sensed in the heavenly incense rune that can stimulate my subconsciousness and make my speed increase by leaps and bounds in a short span of time. The clone's face was no longer a face, but a white bone with flesh and blood inside it. He no longer looked like a human, but by going through with it, his speed had increased several times. In the blink of an eye, he increased the distance between him and Su Ming, who was chasing after him. Su Ming's expression changed, and a brilliant light shone in his eyes. He noticed that the clone's speed had suddenly surpassed it should be able to achieve. He had almost escaped the distance in which Su Ming could detect him. Without any hesitation, Su Ming jumped forward, raised his right hand, and patted the storage bag. When he sent his divine thought into it, a roar echoed in space. The resentful Wei appeared before him the next moment. After the long slumber, the resentful Wei's aura had become slightly stronger, but cultivation base was not its specialty. Its strongest asset was its speed. Once the resentful Wei appeared, Su Ming jumped on it. In an instant, the horse shot into space, chasing after the clone. While the clone used the forbidden art to flee, Su Ming used the resentful Wei to give chase. After 3 days went by, the clone rushed into a black galaxy. There was no whirlwind there. Even if it fused into the place, it would turn dark. The galaxy looked incredibly huge, as if it was a black ocean. It didn't allow any light inside, hiding all that was within it. Almost 6 hours after the clone rushed into the black galaxy, the resentful Wei's burning body appeared before the place. With Su Ming on its back, it rushed straight into the black galaxy. When the resentful Wei stepped into the black galaxy, Su Ming stood on the resentful Wei's body and stared before himself. A glint shone in his eyes. It's just as I expected. It won't be hard to catch the clone in the sun-sinking talisman's area. It'll be difficult possessing him the second time, but this is a good place for it." A hint of a smile appeared on Su Ming's lips. Chapter 1178, All Spirits Hall. Sun-sinking talisman was one of the three great mysteries in true Morning Dao world. It was on the same level of mysteriousness as the heavenly incense rune and yin death region. No one knew its origins, and just like the heavenly incense rune, it had existed since before true Morning Dao world had been born. Over the countless years, an unknown number of cultivators had come to this place. They had all tried to investigate sun-sinking talisman. Many even came with the intention to take the runic symbol for themselves and become its master. But no one had ever succeeded. Droves of cultivators had come. Each one of them had left, while the runic symbol remained in the galaxy. It seemed like it would stay there for all eternity and would never disappear. It had watched true Morning Dao world walk to its glory, and then how it fell into emptiness. Throughout it all, it floated quietly without getting in anyone's way. It seemed like it would be this way even if another million years passed. Compared to the vortex in yin death region, which did not allow anyone in, the sun-sinking talisman was like a wide-opened gate which allowed all cultivators in. It also did not have the strange power of the heavenly incense rune which could make clones independent and charm all cultivators, making them unable to free themselves from the addicting feeling of their levels of cultivation reaching false breakthroughs. Many souls had been injured like this. In fact, with just the least bit of carelessness, it was possible to get stuck in the rune for all time. In comparison, the sun-sinking talisman was much gentler in nature. If cultivators could reach it, then they could leave it as they liked. They would not come to any harm by visiting it. The only thing they would have to suffer was their cultivation bases being suppressed in the pitch-black world. Their divine senses would also be restrained, making it impossible for them to see beyond themselves. This turned all cultivators into mortals. Even if they opened their eyes, they would be blind. Yet this seemed to be the only use of the sun-sinking talisman. That was why, compared to the heavenly incense rune and yin death region, much more people had visited the sun-sinking talisman after all. It was the safest place. However, for this to be true, there had to be no murderers among those who entered. Over the countless years, plenty of people had died in the black world surrounding the sun-sinking talisman. Yet it was known to all that the people who had died did not do so because they were attacked by some sort of strange power from the sun-sinking talisman. They were actually killed by the people who had entered the place with them. Due to the strangeness of the place and other motives, they had attacked their companions. At that moment, Su Ming's clone was clearly thinking about this. Su Ming stood on the resentful Wei that had rushed into the black world. At the instant he stepped inside, Su Ming sensed a powerful pressure press down on his divine sense, forcing it to instantly bounce back into his body. He could only spread it on his skin and no farther. To cultivators, losing their divine sense was equivalent to losing an eye, and if that was not enough, there was also no light in the place. It was pitch black. The darkness was so deep that even if a person focused his vision, they could not make out anything. This was equivalent to losing the other eyes as well. In other words, once any cultivator entered the black world, they were completely blind. At the same time, Su Ming's cultivation base was also greatly suppressed at the instant he entered the black world. This suppression was not at all weak, but incredibly powerful. Su Ming instantly fell from Fate Realm to Mastery Realm, and judging by the fact that it didn't stop, it was likely that the closer Su Ming drew to the center, the greater the suppression on his cultivation base would become. A cold sneer appeared at the corners of Su Ming's lips. He did not hesitate. He moved forward along with the resentful Wei, not even searching for the clone. He believed that the clone would come to him on his own. In fact, even if he did not come, Su Ming would still have his ways to track him down. After all, Su Ming had pushed the clone into having no better option than to come to the sun-sinking talisman. Clearly, during the chase, the clone had turned into an existence akin to a prey in his eyes. With ingenious pushes and his pursuit, the clone's only choice had become this place. Su Ming's expression remained the same as he went forward. He might not be able to see his surroundings, but the resentful Wei was incredibly familiar with such complete darkness. As it charged forward, it did not show any discomfort. Su Ming had foreseen this. After all, The resentful Wei came from the void existing in the relocation spots within Divine Essence Star Ocean. That world might have seemed colorful, but there were plenty of places in it that were bathed in Yilong darkness. The resentful Wei lived there, so it was only natural that its familiarity with darkness was much greater than that of normal people. This was one of the reasons why Su Ming had chosen this place. When he closed his eyes, his mind fused with the resentful Wei's. He used the resentful Wei's eyes and saw the dark world, which was something very few cultivators got to see. It was a gray world with no other color present in it. The area around him was empty except for a huge, gray screen of light in front of him. It moved about continuously as if it was a ball of flames. With the resentful Wei's eyes, Su Ming swept his gaze around the area. He did not see the clone's figure. However, the black world was really vast, so it was not surprising for him to be unable to find the clone within the small area his eyes could see. Su Ming's shut eyes moved slightly. He did not open them, but raised his right hand and clenched his fist in the air. It does not matter whether you are willing to stay here. Since you came to this place, don't think about leaving. A hint of arrogance appeared on Su Ming's face, a confidence that he had everything in his grasp. When he clenched his right fist, the clone shot out of the pitch-black world on the other side. His eyes instantly brightened up. When he turned his head around, the corners of his lips lifted up in a ferocious sneer that was full of smugness. You are the original body, so my personality and manner of thinking are affected by you. That is why if there is a possibility for you to understand my thoughts, there is also a possibility for me to trick you. While you were chasing after me, my instinctive thought was to find a place which could limit you and allow me to devour you. That is why I chose this place. But that is just an act of deception. I wanted to lure you to this place and then leave you in this dark world. Su Ming, go on, continue believing in yourself. I know you're sure that I will attack on my own in this place. When you find out that there is something off, I will have long since left true Morning Dao world. The clone let out a cold bark of laughter and charged into the distance. Yet when he was about to leave the place, a buzzing sound reverberated in space. The instant the clone heard it, his expression changed, and he came to an abrupt halt. His face was incredibly dark. He no longer moved forward but retreated backwards, because he saw a white layer of ripples that looked like a board in front of him, and it was charging towards him. By the looks of it, the ripples near him were just a small part of the whole. They had spread through the entire region that belonged to the sun-sinking talisman. The ripples were Su Ming's supreme treasure. The instant he stepped into the place, he had sent the supreme treasure away from his body and made it float above him. It had enlarged until it covered the entire region belonging to the sun-sinking talisman. Then it turned into ripples and formed a seal akin to a cage. This meant that the place had truly turned into a prison. If the clone tried to force his way out, he might immediately get sealed by the mighty pressure of the supreme treasure. This forced him to retreat and return to the pitch-black world in the sun-sinking talisman. Damn it! For the first time, panic appeared on the clone's face. He had thought that he had predicted all of Su Ming's moves, but every single time, Su Ming showed up to be one step ahead of him. There was no way for the clone to leave the area. If you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. The clone no longer had any other choice. He gritted his teeth, and madness appeared on his face. Even if his cultivation base was restricted and he could not spread out his divine sense, it did not matter to the clone. To him, they were just external objects. His real strength lay in his physical body. With a loud whistle, the clone rushed through the pitch-black world. With killing intent and madness in its eyes, he started sweeping through the place. Su Ming stood with a calm expression on the charging beast. Within the pitch-black world, he saw a gray galaxy with the resentful Wei's eyes. As time trickled by, Su Ming's cultivation was suppressed more and more. The closer he drew to the core, the worse it became. Soon, he was going to be suppressed to the state of only being in solar Kalpa realm. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared within the gray world. It was formed of countless threads and exuded a presence that did not mix with the world. The instant the presence appeared, it immediately devoured the gray shade around it. Even if Su Ming could only see the outline, he could tell at first glance that it was his clone. He could not see the clone's expression, but he could sense a thick foreboding air from the threads forming the figure. The clone had been moving in another direction, but its figure suddenly stopped in its tracks and looked at Su Ming. This scene birthed a thought in Su Ming's heart. Awareness. Once he gained his independent will, he should have awakened the awareness within his physical body that comes from the Crimson Python Phoenix. That's why it can vaguely sense my existence in the darkness. Su Ming had come to a quick understanding of what had happened. At that moment, the clone turned and charged towards him without a sound. He had already lifted his right hand, and a killing seemed to be swiftly gathering on his fist. Even if most of his strength comes from his physical body, he is still suppressed in this place. Based on how much time he used to gather his power, his level of cultivation should have been suppressed till he is only in mastery realm. Su Ming's lips curled into a cold sneer. He watched the clone charge towards him. Soon, his eyes shone, and he lifted his right foot, stepping off the resentful Wei. In an instant, he appeared in front of the clone. The clone's expression changed swiftly, as if he had noticed him. He wanted to move back, but it was too late. Su Ming raised his right hand and went to swiftly capture him. The clone let out a low growl, then raised his right hand, gathered all his power in it, and threw a punch towards Su Ming's incoming right hand. Booming sounds erupted in the black world, and Su Ming let out a harumph. He did not move back, but instead went forward. As for the clone, his expression had changed drastically. Coughing up blood, he fell back swiftly. Chapter 1179, All Spirits Hall. Why you? You can see me. The clone's mind was in a mess at that moment. He did not think that Su Ming would be able to see his surroundings in the pitch-black world within the sun-sinking talisman. This was something that the clone had been sure about. Himself, he could see his surroundings clearly. After all, it was not due to his eyes that he was able to notice Su Ming, but due to his perception. Since the other was the original body, its existence was like a ball of flames in his eyes. The reason Su Ming was unable to perceive the clone in the same manner was also because of their relationship. It was like a small and big object. Due to the small object being small, it was hard to notice it, while the big object would be incredibly clear in the eyes of the small object. The clone was almost scared out of his wits at that moment. As he retreated swiftly, a cold sneer appeared on Su Ming's lips, and he took a step forward to give chase. This time, I'd like to see how you'll run. Su Ming's voice was ghastly, and it had an imposing tone that caused the clone's heart to tremble. As he retreated, he gritted his teeth, then with a roar, he executed the forbidden art to stimulate his potential by having his bones act as his skin while his flesh went inside him. His speed instantly increased exponentially. The instant Su Ming raised his right hand and seized space, the clone escaped by a hair's breadth, fleeing madly. Su Ming let out a cold harumph. He clenched his fist, and booming sounds immediately rose all around him. They came from the white ring which Su Ming had released earlier. It shrunk swiftly. As it did so, its ripple became an unmovable barrier. The clone couldn't get past it and could only wait to be captured. All of this happened in an instant. The moment it was done, Su Ming charged towards the clone once more. The clone might be incredibly fast, but there was a reason why the art he used was known as a forbidden art. It had its drawbacks, like it could not be used for long periods of time, especially when it was cast twice in a row. The clone had less time than it takes for an incense stick to burn. After that, he would not only immediately slow down, he would also be heavily injured. But what else could he do besides this? He gritted his teeth and charged forward as blood trickled down the corners of his mouth. He rushed desperately towards the place where the sun-sinking talisman was at the center of this black world. Only when he was there would he have the slightest chance of survival. Roars reverberated in the world outside at that moment. The sound of the ripple from the ring shrinking inwards signified a dead end. The clone would only have a chance to survive if he reached the sun-sinking talisman, where both of their cultivation bases would be suppressed to their limit. That was why he had activated his full speed regardless of the cost. He was confident that he could reach that place in the span of the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, but he did not see that a hint of derision had appeared in Su Ming's expression as he chased after him. The sentience born due to the heavenly incense rune might make the clone very similar to me, but he is more easily alarmed and less cautious. Once he runs into life-threatening situations, his confidence falters, and he will run, for a dozen-something breaths. Then, I'd like to see how you will continue running away. Su Ming chased after the clone at a moderate pace. He could sense that his level of cultivation had been suppressed, and he was no longer in a stable state in Solar Kalpa realm. He fell to Lunar Kalpa realm, then his level of cultivation was reduced to that of a person who had attained great completion in World Plane realm. And this had only taken 16 breaths. At that moment, the clone coughed up a huge mouthful of blood, and his body shuddered. He had thought that the forbidden art could last for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, but the duration had been cut short. A feeling of weakness rose in his heart, and it resulted in a broken smile on his face. He disregarded the suppression of his cultivation base. The suppression on his physical body was slightly less, but he was charging straight at the sun-sinking talisman. Besides, he had activated the forbidden art, so it had become way worse, and it all fell on his already weakened body. This was why the duration of the forbidden art had been reduced to only 18 breaths instead of the original span of time, which was the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. The instant the clone slowed down, Su Ming took a step forward. When he raised his right hand, a mighty power landed at the top of the clone's head. At the same time, Su Ming's will surged into his body. He was about to execute the second possession. The fear of death stimulated the clone, and he let out a shrill scream filled with his desire to live. The instant Su Ming activated possession, his body shuddered, and a crack immediately appeared at the center of his brows. The moment Su Ming's nascent divinity filled the clone's body, a small human crawled out from the crack at center of the clone's brows and fled madly into the distance. The small human was the independent will born in the clone due to the heavenly incense rune. It could be said that it was a soul, but it could also be said that it was a nascent divinity. At that moment, its speed instantly became incredibly great, and it rushed towards the sun-sinking talisman. The body of the clone that practiced the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole no longer had any form of consciousness or soul. To Su Ming, there was no longer any need to possess it. The thing before him was only an empty shell. His nascent divinity instantly fused back into him, and he quickly retrieved the body to put it into his storage bag. Then, Su Ming lifted his head and stared at the gigantic runic symbol in the shape of a long strip within the huge gray screen of light. It stood distinctly before his eyes despite being far in the distance. The clone's soul was charging at the runic symbol. Without your soul, I cannot possess you, and I will not be able to go through the second possession. I wonder what will happen during the second possession. Honestly, I'm very curious about it. Su Ming narrowed his eyes. The reason why he was so incredibly persistent in chasing down the clone was not just to make him his clone again, but more importantly, because he wanted to know whether he could possess the same clone the second time and whether there would be some changes if that happened. With that sort of thought in mind, there was no way he would let the clone who had formed an independent will go so easily. This was such a rare occurrence. He let out a cold harumph and moved forward to chase down the clone's soul. The two of them were already incredibly close to the sun-sinking talisman, so the clone soon arrived at its side. The moment he reached it, his soul started trembling, and he started becoming vague, as if he was withstanding some sort of mighty pressure and was about to dissipate. Su Ming had also felt his level of cultivation being restrained in a manner that he had never experienced before. His level of cultivation was being continuously weakened while he was getting close to the talisman. He fell from great completion in World Plane Realm to only possessing the power belonging to those in the later stage of World Plane Realm, then fell to the middle stage before sinking straight to the initial stage. When he closed in on the talisman, his cultivation base sank swiftly, and from Heaven Cultivation Realm, he dropped to Earth Cultivation Realm. This was a power level he had not experienced in a long time. It was the level of cultivation he had possessed when he was sent from the land of Berserkers to Divine Essence Star Ocean. Even so, Su Ming's intelligence and experience collected over the years did not allow a single change on his face. He might have become much slower, but he showed no hesitation. In an instant, he reached the sun-sinking talisman. Booming sounds surged through the area. The moment Su Ming arrived at the sun-sinking talisman, the white ring swept towards him from all around him. It had already shrunk to a point where it could envelop the sun-sinking talisman within it. The clone's soul looked like it was about to crumble. When it saw that the white ring had completely sealed the area and Su Ming was walking towards him, panic and fear which had never appeared on it before showed up on its face. "Why are you in such a hurry to kill me? I've already given you my physical body," the clone screamed in a shrill voice. "Your physical body?" Su Ming chuckled coldly. He did not waste his breath on the clone. He took a step forward and charged towards it, then lifted his right hand and seized it. Despair appeared on the soul's face. It had no power to fight Su Ming. Even if what Su Ming showed at that moment was the power of those in Earth cultivation realm, the clone could not face it. Madness and desperation twisted his features. The instant Su Ming seized him, he closed his eyes before swiftly opening them again. The aura of self-destruction instantly surrounded the soul. But the clone knew that self-destruction was useless. It knew that Su Ming was skilled in reversing time, but it could not accept not even attempting self-destruction and just allowed itself to be wiped off. That was why, even though it knew it was useless, it still chose to self-destruct in a bout of madness. However, just as it had known it would be, self-destruction was completely useless before Su Ming. The power of time reversing blew past him. Su Ming caught the clone's soul, and once he curled his fingers around it, layers of seals immediately covered it. Only then did Su Ming put it into his storage bag. Once he left the place and his level of cultivation was no longer suppressed, he would immediately place the soul back into his clone's body and possess it a second time. Once he sealed the clone's soul, Su Ming lifted his head and cast a glance at the huge sun-sinking talisman. The grey light shone 100,000 feet around it, and there were 3 large words written on it. However, Su Ming did not know those characters' whole strokes formed the entirety of the talisman. Yet when he looked over, he could sense a primitive, savage power contained within them. For some unknown reason, the ancient feeling brought back memories of the ancestral spirits who were worshipped in divine essence Star Ocean. In fact, Su Ming could sense that the terrifying power in the talisman surpassed that of the White Ring. It was clearly a supreme talisman which was in a Vanikaya realm. Su Ming did not intend to linger for too long in this place. His level of cultivation had been suppressed to the point that his earth cultivation was already showing signs of instability. He turned around, intending to leave and return to the world outside to reunite with his senior brothers. But the moment he raised his foot, the sun-sinking talisman suddenly shuddered. The presence of an offering has appeared. Activate All Spirits Hall. Make the offering, and you can enter All Spirits Hall. Buzzing sounds came from the sun-sinking talisman. A strange voice traveled through the area, causing Su Ming's heart to tremble. At that instant, a great suction force came from the runic symbol. It enveloped Su Ming's body and pulled him over, as if it wanting to drag him into the runic symbol. There is no offering. The ritual master will offer himself as an offering. The buzzing sounds became as loud as a roar, and Su Ming's expression changed drastically. The suction force had suddenly increased exponentially. The instant it looked like Su Ming would be dragged into the runic symbol, he lifted his right hand and pointed at the white ring. It shrank with a whistle and fixed itself on his right index finger to drag him out. When Su Ming was about to leave the suction area, light shone on the sun-sinking talisman, and a relocation power was activated. Su Ming's eyes went wide, and a bitter smile appeared on his lips as a light spread out and covered him. It disappeared the next instant, but by then, Su Ming was already gone from the black world.